We just went unbeaten playing a back three system on Football Manager. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the season that we had, and we're also going to look at the back three system that I went on to use and how I went about creating it. I'm also going to look at the player rules and player instructions that I used that actually helped us get unbeaten. So let's get into it then. So this is our season with Atletico Madrid. I have a super team, by the way, and just to be clear about how this actually went down, we actually went on to win the league, having a goal difference of 95 and a total points tally of 102. It was an exciting season, I'm going to be very honest with you. And if you look at the competition stuff, it wasn't all plain sailing, to be honest. If you look at the Champions League, we got knocked out by Paris Saint-Germain in the round of 16. And I think in that game, we actually lost on penalties. So just starting with what didn't really go well for us was the Champions League. PSG are in the final against Liverpool. That's on their own business. Okay, we lost the first leg 1-0 and then we won the second leg 1-0. So I hope that we were able to win that other game, but we didn't. And then we lost on penalties against PSG. But that was how the Champions League actually turned out. In all of that competitions, we went on to win everything. We won the Super Cup before the Champions League started. We won the Spanish Cup and the Spanish Super Cup. And then the league, of course, went on to completely dominate the league, having the highest goal difference that I've seen in a very long time. And of course, losing no game whatsoever. We did win 32 games, by the way. We drew one game, or we drew 6 games, won 32, and of course, lost none, so played 38. Looking at the team stats, we were able to dominate here as well. We had 2.68 points per game, and of course, the most goals in the league with 120. I think compared to other systems that I've probably seen on Football Manager, 120 is quite okay. That's why I feel it's not like over the top, exceptional kind of performance. But we did go on to go an entire season without losing a game, which is something very good. And doing it with a back three as well is quite unique. Looking at the fewest shots, we had 197. I think that really helped us defensively. And most possession were kind of like 57%, which is the same as everybody else, the top teams, Villarreal and FC Barcelona. Madrid were in in fourth place, to be honest. I'm going to say second, but fourth. But best pass completion, we're not in there. For some reason, yeah, we're not even in that category. And then most tackles were not also in here. So we weren't playing a very rough game. Most dribbles were in there in sixth place, 589. So I noticed that my players were not really running too much and dribbling too much. It's kind of the way the system was set up. And then if you look at the fewest conceded, we're in there with only 25 goals conceded in the league all season. If we look at the player stats, we only had one player in the top scorers list. We scored only 16 goals, which means the rest of the goals are actually spread across the team. Dion Jiberin is that one player that had 16 goals. Most assists as well. Fresnel Orlando, one of my top players as well, he had only 12 assists. So everything was kind of spread across the club and across most of the players in my squad. The one player that actually stood out was my goalkeeper in Anatoly Trubin, and I think the back three kind of helped him. So he conceded only 17 goals, and considering the fact that we had a very good team, it kind of helped us as well. So this is the way we actually turned out in the league and how we're able to actually stand out, have that top performance going an entire game without losing. Now, we could go through the entire schedule to show you the amount of victories that we actually had. I'm going to skip the 13-0 from the friendlies, but looking at our first big victory was against Levante, 7-1. Looking at Rayo Vallecano, we actually went on to beat them 6-0. We did have some very good clean sheets, like I mentioned. Wolfsburg as well, beat them in the Champions League, and then we went on to beat other teams. I'm looking for the ones that are really, like, I remember playing those games very well. Athletic Club Bilbao was one of them, 5-0 against Athletic Club Bilbao. They are one team I know I'm usually afraid of in Football Manager because I've lost to them before a few times. So winning them 5-0 was kind of really, really good. We've gone on a stretch of wonderful victories in here, and then it starts to reduce the amount of goals that we're scoring. Mostly just 3 goals, 2 goals, 2-0 here against Villarreal, the team that finished fourth in the league. 2-0 again here, and then you can see another. I'm looking for the Real Madrid ones. We beat Barcelona 2-1 the Champions League knockout phase. Eventually we would go on to lose to PSG, but that's by the way. We went on to beat Porenfreda by 9-1. I'm looking for the Real Madrid game because that is one game that I know really stood out for me. We went on to beat Real Madrid 4-0. Dion Jiberin scoring 2 goals in that game, and then my striker Christopher Albrecht went on to score 1 as well. Went on to beat Real Betis or Real Hispales by 6-0, and then of course in the last game of the season we thrashed Villarreal by 4-1. So it was an exceptional performance from my team, I'm going to be really honest with you. So the tactic that I used was quite simple, and the reason why it was so simple is because I had a very good team. So the fact that we had a group of quality players that could actually play in good positions for us actually helped us play a very simple system that could help you go unbeaten and entire season. And the fact that we could go unbeaten, it was down to the ability to adapt to every game. So the tactic used to change depending on the team that we're playing against. I would just go ahead and tweak some player roles and have players play in different positions. So this is one of the back three systems that we use to actually go unbeaten in this season. Most of the players that are in here are in different roles, so I'm just going to walk you through it. I did have a super keeper here on defend duty, and just to make sure I click every single player role so you can see what the roles are. My super keeper is on defend. I didn't want to attach any instruction for him. Looking at my ball playing defenders, they have no instructions. The middle guy also has no instructions, and then I had a wide center back. At first, I started with 3 ball playing defenders, but I noticed that having 3 of them playing as ball playing defenders, I could have one player that was somehow good at crossing. I'm going to just switch this guy in Romero. I'm going to bring in my center back that is a fullback at the same time. Let me just go ahead and select him. Obrat Seferovic. Yes, once Seferovic comes into the team, he is more suited to be a wide centre back because he has the crossing ability and dribbling of a wide centre back. So it wasn't really useful for me to play him as a ball playing defender. So I had him in there. Sometimes he used to play on support duty, and then I will have my wing back play as a wing back on attack duty. But then I also settle for a complete wing back where Park Myung-jae used to actually play that role for me. In the defensive midfield, I had a defensive pairing of a defensive midfielder on support duty and a second volante. I'm going to be really, really honest with you. Right now, this guy could be a defensive midfielder on support, and sometimes he's going to be a second volante playing on attack duty. And then I would have, instead of the regista on this other side, I would have a deep line playmaker in here playing on support. So I used to just do that in different games. But I know like what I used the most this season was to have a defensive midfielder on support, because I noticed towards the ending of the season, we would need to have some solidity in there. So having that defensive protection and then allow the regista to be a bit more free, be a bit more aggressive and get ahead and cause problems. In the wide right row, I had a wing back on support duty, no instructions for him as well, as you can see. So he was able to play that role in Noah Schumacher. He has good crossing as well. Okay, 11 crossing, but it was quite okay. I had a different player in here that I kind of signed from another club. If I can go ahead and find him now, Jules Stalins. He's one. In fact, my club actually forced me to sign this guy. I did actually want to sign him. They said I wasn't spending the money, so I had to spend the money on somebody. So I went ahead and brought Stalins in. He's a wide centre back, sort of wide centre back, wing back at the same time. So I had him play as a wing back on support, and then of course in the attacking midfield role, this is where Dion Jiberin actually played the role. The goalie is in here for now, but since Jiberin has traveled, that's probably why. He's the one that used to be in this role, attacking midfielder on attack duty. No instructions for him as well. I had a pressing forward on support duty and then an advanced forward on attack duty. No instructions for any of these players. And I'm going to give you one little secret that actually worked out for me throughout the entire season. This system that I went on to create, like I said, is suitable for the players that I have in my club. But I also set this as a primary tactic. So most of the time we went on to use this system, any group of players that I actually throw in here, you notice that these green lines tend to come up because this is what the team used the most. So the more often you use a tactic, the more the team is going to get familiar with it. I know it sounds very obvious, but trust me, a lot of people miss that and go ahead and change different tactics, but it doesn't really help. Having a very good team, and then you can go ahead and make them play the same way for most of those games. They will get familiar with it, and then they can go ahead and win more games that way, and always learn to adapt. So the adaptation for me was not to change the complete formation, was just to change the slight player roles. And I'm going to show you that in the second tactic. If you look at the second tactic that we played, this was a tactic that was inspired by Fletch the Source, one of the best tactic creators that I know. I'm going to put a link in the description so you can look at his channel as well. You're going to learn a lot from Fletch. This asymmetrical system is similar to something that Fletch helped me create at some point. All the player instructions are not also included. You can notice that I like to kind of keep no player instructions. Ball playing defenders on both wide sides. So on the left wide, on the right wide, they are ball playing defenders with dribble more instruction. And then the central midfielder here on, or the central defender here on defend DT, no instructions for him. In this system, I also had a register because I wanted a lot of running. That was kind of how I learned the tactic and how it was going to work. I want my players to run a lot. I wasn't afraid. This is more like my expansive tactic. You can see central midfielder on attack duty, and instead of a wing back here, I had a defensive winger on support duty. So there's a whole guide about this tactic in particular. I'm also going to put a link in the description so you can check out those tactics as well, or those videos as well in depth, and then have the full description of those tactics. But these are the systems that worked for me, was how I was able to go unbeaten the entire season. Looking at team instructions, I didn't really change much. They're kind of very similar. For the main tactic, that is the back three, that is, what system is this? The 3-4-1-2 system. Yeah, so this is the mentality that we use. Positive, sometimes it was attacking, but kind of stuck on positive, playing out of defense and looking for the underlap on one side. Usually this was not by force. I could easily have it unchecked most of the time. And then I also play with a fairly narrow width with low crossing, but this low crosses, I kind of prefer to leave it mixed, because if you notice that my center forward, he is a very tall player. Just going to put a hand on him right now. You can see 6'5", and my other center forward is Rasmus Højlund. He's also very tall. So you can have it on low crosses, you can have it on mixed crosses in game. If you notice that your low crosses are not working, just tend to look at the players that you have and what they can do. All of that, you're going to see it in the video that I'm going to link down below, so you can go ahead and watch how this tactic was actually created. In transition, we had counter press and counter selected, and a goalkeeper was also rolling it out. No other instruction, no slowing the pace down, no rushing it too much, just roll it out to somebody. Because we had 3 center backs waiting, there was always somebody to receive possession of the ball. Out of possession, the team was able to play with a high press and a much higher defensive line. This was similar compared to the other instructions in possession and in transition instructions. This is actually the same as the other tactics. So high press, much higher defensive line, more often trigger press, I think. Okay, the other one is much more often. We're going to look at that and then step up more. Just to confirm that, yes, this is much more often trigger press and prevention goalkeeper distribution, but the high press and a much higher defensive line is still there. You can see the in transition instruction stays the same. This time the goalkeeper is distributing it quickly, so we're a bit more expansive, even though we're playing with the balanced mentality. And we can look at the in possession instructions then, shorter passing with higher tempo and of course exploiting both flanks. This was somehow meta to me because of the way Fletch explained how Football Manager tactics kind of work, and I learned a lot from him, especially using this tactic. So there will be a link in the description so you can check them out and see how it works out for you. So that is how I was able to get unbeaten with Atletico Madrid here on Football Manager for the first time, to be honest, playing through an entire season, going unbeaten, playing a back three system. I think I've done it before with a different particular shape, but the back three was very difficult, and having to do that or trying to do that right now and it's working out is quite good, and I feel really, really happy actually doing this. So let me know what you think of the tactic, and for more Football Manager tactic videos like this, do well to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when more of these videos do come out. I'll see you in the next video.